Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from SHAmory, and it's an honor to have you all here. Thanks to everyone who has been listening or watching. I hope you're finding these shows fun and educational. With this episode dropping on the heels of Mother's Day weekend, I couldn't think of a better time to bring on a powerful mother-daughter duo. It's my pleasure to introduce Lisa and Ella Hough. Welcome to the show. How are you both doing today?
Thank you, Scott, for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem.
We're amazing. We're always amazing when we get to spend time with you. I'm sorry that your little sidekick isn't with you today.
I know, as I told you guys before, she's off on a fun homeschool adventure at a local farm. I told Ella before you jumped on, I just got an updated picture. They're now eating soft serve ice cream, so their day is probably the best out of all of us.
Yes, definitely.
For sure. And actually, before we go too far, I did want to pull out. So the last time we saw Lisa in person was last October, November, whenever the event in Santa Monica was that Dom was putting on. And at the time, Charlotte, she'd missed seeing you again at the end, but she did make you another keychain with your name on it. I've kept it up here on the side, knowing that we'd see you again soon, hopefully in Vegas, obviously. So it'll travel with us to find its rightful home. But I did pull that out of the drawer earlier today to make that happen. And for those that don't know, our 5-year-old started selling bracelets and charms at the conference a few years ago, and Lisa has been her one of her top customers over the years, always coming over and supporting a young entrepreneur. So it's always fun to have that connection, and that's really where this all started.
It all started over jewelry. Imagine that.
It did jewelry and I guess trading cards, since it was Aladdin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but Pacific Bitcoin in 2022.
For sure.
When he gifted that card and you autographed it and all that stuff. So yeah, time flies.
Time flies. And our kids are growing up. It's horrible. I did not approve of this growing up business.
I know. Well, we'll get into some of that, I'm sure, during the show. So let's dive into some of it and kick it off in a fun way with some icebreakers. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. So with it being close to Mother's Day weekend, this episode will come out afterwards. We're a few days before for those watching. Is there a favorite Mother's Day memory that each of you have from when Ella was growing up? Maybe a favorite gift, a homemade gift, or an activity you guys did, something like that comes to mind?
Well, we have some amazing photos from Mother's Day. I mean, if we're together, we go to church and then, we go eat like some sort of carbohydrate product. We have great photos from Mother's Day in the past. I apologize for the noise. I have construction right above me.
No worries.
I don't know, Ella. What do you think? Now, actually, I get the greatest gift every year with Mother's Day. I can tell you what my gift is, which is super fun. Actually, I have it here.
Let's see.
So,
a new bag.
This is a steel canvas tote, and I'm never without it. And I don't think I have an old one because it's in use. But I think it's just super handy. It's what I carry as my purse every day. It always has a 9mm in it that's fully loaded. And no one ever wants to steal it because the older those bags get, the dirtier and yuckier they look, which I really love. Because I think we have to be very careful nowadays about what we have with us. So anyway, but every year Ella gifts me a brand new one, which is fabulous.
Sometimes I switch it up. I have clever gifts. They're not always boring like a canvas tote bag.
It's my favorite. I love it. It's my favorite gift.
You're consistent and it's useful. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, Mom, I don't know if this is Mother's Day or if this was Easter, but I was first thinking of the photo when we're wearing the matching aprons, making the deviled eggs. Is that Mother's Day or is that Easter?
I don't know.
You do come close to each other.
I don't know.
That's okay. Deviled egg story, deviled egg picture.
When I was really little, I used to paint platters. And so I think sometimes maybe I would do that close to Mother's Day. So then there would be the platter ready for Mother's Day.
Yes. That's super clever.
Those are the memories coming to my mind.
Yes, the homemade gifts are always the best. And as I was telling Ella before you hopped on, Lisa, Charlotte is very much a crafter, as you might know from her bracelets. And it just so happens Mallory's birthday was a couple of days ago. So her birthday and Mother's Day are always lining up or falling on top of each other. So in our household, there's a lot of secret crafts going on that Charlotte is hiding around the house between those two. And You never know what she's going to pull out that needs to be packed. So that was a fun one a few days ago, and we'll see what's in store for Sunday.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Love
Okay.
it.
Icebreaker number two. What's the song or playlist you both agree on for a mother-daughter road trip or hangout? And why does it get you both kind of in the mood or singing and dancing? Is there one that comes to mind?
Mom, do you want to say it? I mean, Scott, you sort of just said it. Well, I always pass along music to my mom's choice because she has great playlists and great taste. But which one have we used recently?
Everybody always likes my music, and it's funny because it's like what you would expect to hear at some great like dive bar or I mean, I grew up in Texas, right? So for me, like we didn't have any money growing up, but we would get in the car and we'd drive to Colorado. My siblings, my parents and I, when we were little, and we had 8-track tapes in our van. We had an 8-track player. It was always the old country music, right? It was the um, Urban Cowboy playlist, or that soundtrack, or what. So that's kind of what my everyday playlist is. And Ella has just always, I mean, everybody, if you come to my house, the music's always on. If you're in my car, people are always like, I love this song. I love this song. So I'm constantly Shazamming. My recent additions are the music that is a lot of the music from Landman, which is
Okay.
like absolutely skyrocketed to the top of my favorite. I'm gonna waste time and watch TV. I've watched Ella and I watched Landman together when it came out. And there's incredible music that's part of that soundtrack with artists that I've never heard of before. So would encourage people to like, and again, it's like feel good country, like, I grew up in the sticks type music. Um,
Very nice.
Mom, isn't In the Mood one of the record players? Isn't that?
yeah. Well, that was
Yeah.
my dad's favorite
Or
song. My dad's favorite song was In the Mood. A lot of people's favorite song came out in the 40s. Um, and Ella got me a record player for Christmas a couple of years ago, which ranks as the absolute best Christmas gift ever. And she got me my favorite record that I used to play when I was little. I don't think your listeners are going to actually want to hear. I'm going to finish this sentence and then we're going to go on. But it's the Carpenters on Top of the World, just like my favorite song growing up, like as a 5-year-old.
Very nice.
So Ella got me the Carpenters record, the little 45, and then the record player a few years ago for Christmas. And then my dad died, and she got me the In the Mood 45, which I play like every weekend. It's sitting in my living room. I open that on Saturday morning and play those couple of records and a couple of Ella Fitzgerald records. Like puts me in the best mood.
Perfect. Another question is, can all the record stuff fit in those bags that you also get for Mother's Day? So then you can take it all with you. So then you have everything on the go.
yeah, I think so.
Now we have it. Perfect. And so this is a side question. It's not planned, but when I told Mallory you guys were coming on, we also watched Landman. And I said, she's like, you have to ask Lisa, how real is it? Just knowing your work in the background of energy space and oil and gas and stuff. So how real is the show, in your opinion?
So I would recommend people go listen to Chuck Yates Needs a Job, that podcast. Chuck and the Digital Wildcatters guys get on and riff on Landman. I traded gas. I have absolutely no idea how they bring those precious resources out of the ground. I do say on almost every podcast, I think they are the smartest people on earth and the most hardworking. I was actually just in Midland for a work thing, project that we're working on, and I fell in love with Midland. Every place I went into, some, hardworking young man opened the door and said, "Yes, ma'am." And it's a very polite town. It's very reasonably priced. Like the food, we went out for Italian in this packed kind of family Italian place, and I think I had chicken parmesan, and it was $14.99. It came with salad, and it wasn't like an Olive Garden. It was like
Authentic.
So I don't know. I love the people in Texas. I think aside from obviously the natural resources, the people are Texas's greatest assets. They're hardworking and honest and kind and polite and not woke.
There we go.
And Ella laughs when we talk about Landman because she often says, like, Mom, you've been saying that for years. Like, Tommy will go off on some rant, and I have been. I'm like, we need to bring back coal. We need natural resources. I'm not a renewables fan. I'm fine that we have them, but you need baseload energy to have secure grids, and I think the world saw that in Spain over the last couple of weeks. Somebody that I'm working on a project with actually lives in Portugal and has family in Barcelona, and he said, "Oh, it's just amazing. Everybody got along, and there was no like insurrection, and people were helping one another." And I would say that's probably what would happen in Texas, not for the reason that we all love one another, but because everybody here is armed. But like New York City, like it would be an insurrection if that city were out of power for a week, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I couldn't
you
imagine.
need baseload generation, period. So I will try not to get on the Landman rant, but it's
okay. I walked you into it. I'll blame Mallory because since she's the one who brought the question up even before, so it's all her fault.
I'm wondering if you let Charlotte watch Landman.
Charlotte did not watch any of Landman. No, she's in bed by that time, thankfully. But we did enjoy it, so we'll look forward to the next season.
It's never too early to start telling your kids about baseload generation and the importance of it.
There we go. You can drop those hints in Vegas when you're talking to her about bracelets. Talked about her energy. Okay. Next fun one. If you had to plan the perfect mother-daughter day from scratch, what's one kind of must-have activity that you'd want to do? And it sounds like there's a good story here since you're already laughing.
I mean, it might start raining. Not
Okay.
actually all the case, but we love a good, wake up. We love our coffee hour, or hours. It's very plural. And then just sit around, talk, and we love when it rains and then we don't feel pressured to go outside and be productive.
It's a nice lazy day that turns into a lazy afternoon, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really get to, or I'll finish. I mean, I've lived away from home since 7th, 8th grade, and so we don't really get that much time together. And so I think when I'm home, we just want to be together. We don't need to be doing anything, some big activity. But Mom, what would be yours?
No, that. But it really started because we spent a lot of time with Ella's dad's family, and we spent a lot of time outside and a lot of outdoor activities in a really beautiful part of the U.S. where you could just, windows open at night and lots of outdoor neighborhood type stuff going on during the day. But so she and I would often be there during the summer without her dad. He'd, be working, come for the weekends or whatever. He'd call occasionally and he'd say, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Oh, it's raining outside. So we're just watching a movie." He'd be like, "Oh, that's such a bummer. I know you were going to try to do this and this and this, and that's such a bummer." And then he'd call back like 30 minutes later and he'd go, "I just looked at the weather. It's perfect. What are you doing?"
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I think it's like, you know what? Life is so short. Like, if you have the opportunity to be with your kids and block out the rest of the world, like, to me, it is a total win.
Yes.
And so that is absolutely what we still do, is we just block out the rest of the world. I think I like to joke that I inherently do not like people. Of course, is not true, but that I like Ella more than any other people.
That sounds like a perfect day and well said. Okay, last icebreaker before we dive into some of the deeper stuff. If you both had to join a mother-daughter circus act, what would your performance be? And would it get cheers or boos? If you had to come up with something together.
Goodness. Now I'm trying to think of circus acts. I mean, maybe like train a cat, and it's like
an actual cat or like a tiger?
No.
How dangerous are we getting?
No, like a cat, not a tiger.
Okay, we're gonna train cats together.
I don't think I've ever been to the circus, so I'm not even sure what my options are.
You can be flying on the trapeze, doing, who knows how adventurous you want to get.
So I'm just going to say that would never happen because when I was 6 years old, I took ballet and I'm just going to go ahead and say this, and this is also going to be, the rant by Lisa. I do not think that we should be normalizing being fat. Our society has normalized fatness, and I grew up as the fat kid, um, which is fine. Like, but when I was like 6, my ballet teacher told my mom I should never come back. She was like, Lisa is not good at this. Like, ballet is not for her. She's not graceful. So it did not scar me. You can tell that my sense of self is very much in check. But so I don't know that we'd be in a circle. I don't feel
There we
that
go.
talented. I'm not coordinated. Again, like there's too many people in a circus place.
There are. That's for sure. Okay, we got cats or nothing, so something in between. We'll figure it out one day. Okay, well, thanks for hanging in there with some of the funner ones, and we can dive into maybe some of the more family related stuff, and kind of let's take it back a little bit, or maybe 18, 20 years, to Ella's early years, and maybe Lisa, tell us a little bit of what was Ella like as a kid, and maybe a favorite memory from the childhood that you always think of. We've already heard about the lazy days, but we got that one.
Yeah, well, Ella's not lazy. She's the hardest working individual, and that completely comes from her dad. I'm inherently lazy and very eager to admit it. Um, but a memory that we talk about with some frequency, I remind her of, is that I knew she was going to go do incredible things when she was 16 months old, and I dropped her off at preschool for the first day. And you walk in it was a little church school. We walk in the little church school, and there's a lot of crying that's happening. Not from Ella. Ella's like,
Well, let's just preface a little bit. I was a terrible baby. Like, we joke that I kind of cried all the tears God gave me within the first year and a half ish. So, sorry. So,
You
there was
got
a
him
lot of
out.
crying, but I had him out.
yeah, she had terrible colic and had her days and nights mixed up. And she was so lucky that God gave her two parents, because her dad knew just how to like calm her down. And but so she was 16 or 18 months old, we took her for her first day of preschool at the little church school, and all the kids around us were crying, and the mothers were doing whatever mothers do. And Ella and I still to this day like hold hands a lot when we walked in, we were holding hands, and took her to her classroom, the Blue Bunny classroom. The teachers greeted her. She was super cheerful, said hello. And then she just walked directly to the back of the room where they had this bridge. Like you had to kind of like go up this little ramp, and it was a bridge in the middle of the classroom. It was really cool. And if you're thinking about like what a 16-month-old, like you're still, your
Yeah.
motor skills are not perfected, right? Like
No.
hers, she was walking, of course, right? But
Yep.
um,
That's Zoe's age now, so I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah. And so I'm like, kind of watching her walk away, and then she just turns around to me and she's like, bye bye mommy, bye bye mom. And I was like, oh my gosh, literally not a single other kid was not crying, not a single other kid was not clinging to their parent. And she just like could not wait to get away from me. No, not really, but she was just like often doing investigative research of what was, she was just going to see what was there in the classroom. And she's always loved school, and she just is super curious, like what's out there in the world. So I knew from that moment that that I would have this kid, and my goal as a parent has always been I would really like to be able to have a child that at whatever age, high school student, I think you should be able to drop them anywhere in the world, and they should be able to get themselves home or get themselves to where they need to be. And Ella can talk about it maybe, but I mean, she moved to China when she was in high school, and has lived in other countries and has traveled extensively. And I think that has really made her, it has definitely made her who she is, but it's given her this really unique ability to connect with people from all over, to just fit into any situation, to just roll with whatever happens.
Well said. I completely agree, Kevin. Have that self independence to be able to do that sort of stuff and recognizing it from an early age. And I guess just because you brought it up, kind of going to China so young, Ella, what was the interest there for the audience, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I was looking at high schools, so to add a little bit of prefacing, when I was little, I was not allowed to watch television except for Food Network or HGTV, and then, our occasional rain day summer movies.
Yes.
But reading was way more emphasized and could never watch cartoons, Disney Channel, anything like that. And then as I kind of grew up, Madam Secretary was added to the list. I could watch that. That is my favorite show. I've seen it way too many times. And when I was in sixth grade, decided that I really wanted to be Secretary of State. And so I said, okay, how am I going to do this? Because I like to set goals, big goals, but then work backwards that just doesn't magically happen. What should I do in the meantime to best prepare me? Or, inevitably along the way, prepare me for something else that I don't even know exists yet. And so I said, okay, I should go to the Naval Academy or a service academy. I was like, okay, how am I going to get into a service academy or, a really good college? It's like, okay, I need to be able to get into the best high school that I can, where I can, have a mixture of athletics because there's a whole candidate fitness assessment as well as academics. And so when I was in sixth grade, we started looking at boarding schools. And then it was either then or when we were actually doing the tours of schools. At one of them, they had a brochure for this program called School Year Abroad, or SYA. And it's a program where you spend the entire year in either France, Italy, Spain, or China. And so it's during your junior year, for most people of high school, when the time came sophomore year to apply, I was at a boarding school and I really loved it. Didn't really want to leave, but I wanted to look into this program again. And I thought, you know what? I have taken French for maybe 10 years, 9 years. I don't know a word of Chinese. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. But if I am going to leave someplace where I'm really happy, then I want to do it. Like, I just want to go all the way for it, something I can't do easily by my own. It's easy enough to go to Spain, Italy, France. But China, where I couldn't even look at the characters and get any semblance of what does this mean. I was like, okay, let's go to China. And I also was thinking, for geopolitical reasons, oh, wouldn't it be great if I knew Chinese and had been there and kind of understood the culture? And so I applied for there, got in, and when the time came to make the decision, actually, I think my mom and I were together in Tanzania at the time. My parents have always been supportive of anything I wanted to do, but pretty much anyone outside the two of them said, this is not a great idea. You shouldn't go to China. Let's think through this. And I was like, it's an 8-hour sleep and a couple movies on a flight. We'll go. I'm not going to be scared of something that I can't identify. And let's do it. And so I did. And it was the most incredible experience. I had an incredible host family, both sets of grandparents, 2 host sisters. I had about 26 classmates who I met at the airport, as well as we met all of our teachers there. And within the first 100 days, you had to stand up and give a 5-minute memorized speech in Chinese, and I did it. Loved learning the language. And then unfortunately, COVID cut it short. But when I got there, maybe after on reflection, I was the only person or thing that I knew when I was there initially. I didn't know the language, didn't really know the culture, I didn't have any, real friends there first, didn't know my host family, everything. And so I think it was an opportunity to figure out who I was, or begin figuring out what I really cared about. Um, and so, yeah, I would do it all over again a million times over and hope that I can go back sometime soon. But I still keep in touch with my host family and all the people there. So it was wonderful.
Sounds like an amazing experience. Too bad it did get cut short, but even valuing the time you had there and learning the language, do you still feel confident speaking it today?
No, I took it, so freshman year of college, I was at NYU Shanghai, and so I could keep learning it. But then I fulfilled my language requirements that I needed and how the schedule worked. Chinese classes were like every single day in the middle of the day. And so I just have not used it very much recently. But I can still read, listen decently well. A couple, maybe it was last summer, the summer before, I was in France. And despite taking French for like 10 years, I actually used more Chinese there than in French. So in situations, I can bring it back.
Understandable. And so we won't look out for the next Bitcoin paper to be written in Chinese just yet. Maybe freshen up for a little bit. And Lisa, what was obviously, like you said before, instilling that sense of independence was something you wanted from a young age, which obviously was happening. But when you see it blossoming, and Ella tells you something like, I want to go live in China for a while. As a mother, what does that feel like? A sense of pride, sense of being nervous, like a combination of a lot of different things.
Was I against you going to China?
You weren't really a big fan. I mean, you got around to it, but I would say also once I was there, you were. So basically, I got there and there were a few things that weren't going so smoothly at the beginning, and just external events not related to the program or me at all going on, and so you were definitely team come home, uh, but it worked out.
Yeah. I think I was despite wanting her to be able to drop her somewhere, um, I think I was on board. You had a lot going on. So Ella will do something like this pretty frequently. It'll be like, I think I'm going to go to school in China, but then also there's these two online programs for these like super AP classes and like this super hard math or whatever that like reading the class descriptions, I just want to like pass out. And Ella's like, yeah, so in addition to learning Mandarin, which she did in 100 days, she was fluent. She was like, also, I think I'm going to go take this like AP, BC, calculus, physics. Basically, like all of her advisors were like, that's too much, Ella. And I definitely got on the that's too much, Ella. And Ella literally like looked at me and was like, or over the phone, she was like, Mom, I can do this. I want to do it. And I was like, okay.
It's the perfect
Yeah, so
mentality.
I was worried, thinking about college and applying because, your junior year, it's when you're getting your test scores, you want to make sure your transcript is all looking good for when you're applying to colleges. To go to China, I was going to give up taking some harder classes at my high school. And so I found this program, which was great, One Schoolhouse Online, and you could take online APs. And so I decided to take 2 online APs in addition to like the 7 classes I had in China and, just the experience of being there. And everyone was like, oh, this is not going to be good. But I think, well, I like to do hard things. I have learned about myself the past few years, and I think the more times you do it, you just build up that self-confidence. Like, I can figure this out, I can do it. And so I just knew it was going to be hard, but I had a lot of faith in myself that I could figure it out. And there's sacrifices. I don't, sacrifice isn't a great word because it's things I chose, but yeah, different options. And I knew what I was choosing and giving up and not going to pursue. But I'm glad I did it. And for also their credit, I was at 7 or 8 different schools in a span of like 7 years. And so they were worried that having so many transcripts would not signal well to colleges.
Does make sense. Is there a sense, or is there a moment, I guess, from when you were growing up that you feel like you realized you have that confidence in you to do this sort of stuff and take on these, what most would consider tough tasks, and kind of excel at them? Is there some moment that when you were a kid, you're like, oh, I can see myself doing all these things, or something that instilled in you from Lisa or your dad?
Yeah, I think so. It's sorry, I cut out a little bit, but I think you said, was there one moment where I realized? And I forget the date directly off of my head, but I do have it. So when I was in China, I also decided I was going to sign up for a half marathon on the Great Wall of China.
I think I remember this from Twitter back then. Yep.
Yeah, so the candidate fitness assessment for the Naval Academy, and I played a ton of sports growing up, but not like cardio necessarily based. Well, to some extent, I was a horrible just runner, and like I played soccer and variety of like ice hockey even, so things where you needed to have good cardio, but I could not really run. So I decided to sign myself up for a half marathon on the Great Wall of China in May and started training for it. And in December, I ran a half marathon on the treadmill at the gym. And so I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, I can set my mind to something and do it. And this is where I think the proof of work element of Bitcoin really resonates with me, because truly, if you exert the energy and the effort, you can achieve things. And so doing things like that where I set a goal and I finish it really, helped me with that.
Awesome story, and perfect way to tie in proof of work and the whole aspect of it. And
But you did run a marathon. I just want to like finish the thought
Yes, well, so
because
then to tell the full story, so then COVID happened and came back, and I was actually enrolled in 3 high schools at the same time. Basically never left my desk. And then my freshman year of college, the like next year, I was working pretty much full time, and my classes were in like Taiwan and Shanghai because I was at NYU Shanghai. So I was basically up from like 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day, kind of at all hours. And I just did not, run. I stopped running. I basically just sat at my desk the whole time. And when after I finished my sophomore year at Cornell, it struck me that it was almost 4 years since I signed up for this half marathon and I didn't do it. And that just didn't sit right with me. And so I signed up for a marathon. And I ended up sort of hurting myself a little bit because I was not eating the proper nutrition. So I actually only trained running for maybe a couple weeks, and then I biked 100 miles, or I just switched all my running plans to a stationary bike and ended up biking a marathon ahead of the actual marathon. And then when I got to the starting line on that day, I hadn't run. It was in October. I hadn't run since like June or July, but I just thought, we're going to take this step by step and see how this goes. And basically did that the whole way through and finished it.
amazing. And yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're posting some of those stories on Twitter from back when you were doing. Is that correct? Something's ringing a bell in my head from.
yeah, well, what we posted on
Yep.
Twitter was that. So that was at the very end of the Swan Pacific Bitcoin conference, right? Ella, you left the Swan conference
Yep.
early.
So I also
was
do things like when you really shouldn't do it in terms of timing. I went from school in Ithaca to LA for that conference and back to the East Coast for this marathon.
right. And then my dad was dying, and I don't know why. I was like, I think I didn't feel well or something was going on, and I was like, I really need to be in Houston. But I wanted to see her run the marathon. I was like, anyway, her dad was with her when she ran the marathon. But she called me like the last half mile or so, last quarter mile, and had me on FaceTime. And she was like, Mom, I really just wanted to cross the finish line with you. So she's like running and, you know, whatever. And I'm sitting next to my dad who's in hospice, but alert. And he and I are watching her. My dad's cheering and I'm crying and like a hot mess because all this is happening. And she didn't tell me she was going to call me. I had just been texting her throughout the marathon, like, I'm following you. I know where you are. Keep going. Amazing. You're doing great. Like, I'm texting, right? But she's not, I just didn't expect for her to call or FaceTime. So she would have gotten the best kid award anyway in the whole world. But then she did that. And it was like an incredible moment for me, but also for my dad. She was extremely close um, with her grandparents. And I don't know, it's just an incredible, thoughtful thing to do. And she
Yes.
ran the marathon, and it was fun because you could hear her dad like screaming, you know, like, go, Ella, yeah, like you can hear all this in the background, right? It was just, it's like the greatest day.
Yeah, the moment that you'll never forget for sure. And like you said, your dad as well, from being able to be there and hear it and see it happen. So so thoughtful. So we've talked a lot about more serious stuff and heartfelt stuff. Lisa, is there a funny moment from Ella's childhood that comes to mind that you'd be able to share, more lighthearted in nature?
Well, you know, I mean, I just want to like make sure we kind of keep her ego in check, right? We've covered a lot of really like astonishingly
Yes.
outstanding cool things. But I do just want to say that like, are we telling people you do ride a bike now, Ella, or are we still on that you really cannot ride a bike? She has slip
No, I
walk.
outed myself. I outed myself in a very public manner that I cannot ride a bike. So we're telling people.
Okay. I have a sister that's similar. So Rachel, if you're listening, I'll call you out too. I know you have trouble riding a bike sometimes as well. So you're in good company.
I mean, it has been like the biggest, it has been the greatest joy to be her parent, except for the first like year was absolutely torture. Um, and yeah, it was just, it was torture. And again, thank God that she had two parents. And we were actually renovating our house at that time when she was born. Literally, while she was born, we were renovating. Um, and so we lived with my parents while our house was under renovation, which was incredible because it was like, you know, when you have a baby, right? It's like all of a sudden we had four grown-ups in the house. Everybody could like take a shift. And I would say Ella's dad was like number one of like calming her down and, you know, getting her to quit crying. But tied for a pretty close second, I would say, would be my dad. My dad would just sit in the rocking chair and he'd have CNBC on his TV on mute. And I mean, there was like no one on earth that loves this child as much as my dad did. So anyway, I don't know. That wasn't very funny. That was another heartfelt one.
That's
But
okay.
I mean, you could
Whatever.
tell the story of, I think this was a very pivotal moment of how I handled responsibility. Do you want to tell the story of when I didn't do my math homework?
yes.
Oh,
Okay.
lovely.
Yes. No, so I do think that, you know, maybe we're not giving kids enough responsibility. And people always ask me, like, you know, like, has Ella always been this way? Like, how, you know, how did you get, how do I parent my child so that they turn out like Ella? And just really from the beginning, I just was like, look, you know, all the choices are yours. And I've told this story before, like, do you want to wear this or do you want to wear this? Take a bath? Do you want to take a shower? Do you want to do your homework first or do you want to help me make dinner first? Right? Like choices their whole life. But you also have to give your kids room to screw up. And when they screw up, like you need to let them. Like when they totally whiff, you can't save them. You know, you've got to, and I like to say, like, I was a big swimmer, a competitive swimmer growing up, and I remember my swimming coach. I can see her, and you know, I still can remember her name, just all the little things that she taught us. But like, you have to parent like a swim coach, not a lifeguard, right? You're not there to save them. you're there to let them make mistakes and do great things. Um, in my opinion, like I want her to, if she were to make a mistake, go ahead and make it while I'm here. Like I can support you through you making a mistake, but I'm not going to fix the mistake. And like I mentioned, we'd go away for the summer, um, and do a lot of really fun outdoor, stuff. Um, and we didn't watch TV, but Ella didn't do her online, like her math homework or something. I think it was math, right?
In my defense, it was a lot of math homework, but I
It was
didn't do it, which was the point.
And so we got back to Houston on the first day of school, and all of a sudden it was like this panic set in. And she was like, I think it was third grade, second grade, or
No, I was older. It was
first grade.
sixth grade. And sixth grade was a very pivotal year.
Okay, sixth grade.
Yeah.
And it was like, Mom, can you please call my teacher and just tell her that I couldn't do it, we were busy or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not going to call your teacher and tell her that you couldn't do it because we were busy. Like, I didn't even know you were supposed to do it. But this is sort of how I parent. I'm like, I'm not asking you if you have homework. I'm just expecting you to do it. I'm not checking to see if you did your homework. I'm just expecting that you did it. I've never asked her to see her grades. I'm just assuming she's passing, right? Like, so I didn't call. And, Ella got super upset. It's, 6:45 in the morning and we're getting ready to get in the car and drive to school. And she's very, very upset. And so I let her go into school and I just said, you're going to have to go talk to the teacher and work it out. You're going to need to explain why you didn't get this done. And as I'm driving home from dropping her off, I call my own mother and I'm relaying this to my mom. And my mom is like screaming at me, like telling me I'm the worst parent ever and I should have helped her. Blah, blah, blah. It turned out to be great because Ella worked it out with her teacher and she's never done that again.
Yeah. Like you were.
So I just don't like excuses. And so I think that also, it didn't go to the teacher and say, oh, I had, or maybe I did, I really don't remember, but, oh, this and that is why I couldn't do it. I think it also taught just own up for your actions and fix it, like make a plan. So I think it was more, I didn't do this. Can I get it to you by X date or something like that? So I think that was important as well.
No, that's perfect. And I loved your analogy of the swim coach versus the lifeguard. That's a perfect one and a perfect example of you being the swim coach instead of the lifeguard there. So I'm sure that'll resonate in a lot of homes of the families that are listening. As you guys look ahead, is there a dream do you guys have as a relationship, whether it's a trip to go on, a fun adventure or milestone? Anything's game here, but anything you guys are looking forward to be able to do one day together?
Well, lately, my mom really wants to move in with me next year.
Lisa wants to move to New York.
Yes, she's really like, okay, you're getting a 2-bedroom, right?
Very nice. Well, and you're still fighting this, or where are we at in the stage of negotiations?
So when we're together, we cannot get anything done as by our, what we do in a day. We just talk. And so, it'll be the same scenarios we have now. She has her own 2 pillows at my apartment here. And so when she comes, it's coffee cups exactly as she likes it, the whole thing. But I don't think we're going to be roommates.
Sorry to dash those dreams on the podcast, Lisa. That had to be broken, and now I guess it's recorded, so it's real. Maybe rent the place across the hallway or something like that.
No, I'm going to let her have her own. I'm going to let her do her own thing. I really am. I do get to see her a lot because we do a lot of the Bitcoin conferences together, and that's been phenomenal.
Yes.
We did Oslo together a few years ago. Well, a long time ago. We did Riga last year. We did the Bitcoin conference. Obviously, we're doing the Bitcoin conference again.
Yeah.
Oh, Kenya. We were just with Gridless.
If it were not for Bitcoin, we really would not see each other as much as we get to.
And that's a perfect entryway to bring Bitcoin up quickly. So who was the first person to discover Bitcoin, and kind of how has that sparked the journey in your relationship together, for those that don't know?
I mean, I think we really found it at the same time. Maybe I found it just a slight bit ahead of Ella, but it was a pretty unified journey. It was like, uh, you know how it is when you're finding Bitcoins, like you find one like nugget and you don't know what the whole ecosystem looks like. And so we're like sending podcasts back and forth and uh,
Yep. So nice shared journey. And besides the conferences, any other favorite moments that has come, lively debates, that sort of thing between you guys, where maybe you're disagreeing about something related to Bitcoin?
Well, if we do we disagree about things in Bitcoin?
Scott, we don't really disagree about much. I
Perfect.
mean,
Wallpaper, but I'm over that. So,
One of you wants the Bitcoin wallpaper and one of you doesn't. I got it. No, that's perfect. Well, then we've made it to close to the end here. And before I move on to the final two questions, which is how we end every of the shows, I just want to remind the audience, you can go check out SHAmory.com to take a look for anything you need for your family's needs. We've got books, games, everything between fun Bitcoin characters. Head over there, SHAmory.com, code BFF shop, BFF show for 10% off to be able to do that. And we're going to wrap things up with the same two questions every time. And you guys ready?
yes.
Okay. So a common saying in the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset the world has ever created. So playing off of that, what is the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided you guys?
Biggest gift of time for us or our individually or our
Either
relationship?
however you want to answer. No, the wrong answer.
I mean, I think a lot of my friends or people my age, often you find yourself feeling maybe a lot of stress about the future or just fear, uncertainty about how you know, basically how I approached looking for a job, or, what I'm going to major in, all of that. Even when I was applying to schools, I did not put any restrictions on geographically where I'm going to live. I mean, clearly I signed up to go to school in China again. um, and same thing with the job, let's see what the opportunities are. Like, I will go wherever I can get the best job, learn the most. And a lot of people think, okay, I need to get so and so job so I can make enough money. And inevitably, it means, you can't live near your family. You can't, uh, be close to the people who you love spending time around. And so I think in that sense, it sort of lets you really put more time and effort back into the relationships that you care about the most when all of a sudden your time, your money is not leaking value over time. You're able to preserve that. So, for the context of this show, I think it's opened up a lot more doors and opportunities that it's not like, okay, see you never. I don't know if anyone's seen like the Sahil Bloom kind of chart when he calculates what age are you? What age are your parents? And you see them twice a year at the holidays. Okay, you're going to see them 60 more times in your life, whatever it is. That math, I think, can just be ignored when you live on a more, on the Bitcoin standard in a sound money world.
I have seen that chart, so it's a very engaging one, and like you said, can really open your eyes to things. Anything to add, Lisa, on that front?
yeah. Um, when Ella was thinking about college and she really plotted out her college uh, uh, curriculum when she very early on. I think it changed, but I mean, she had her whole high school curriculum planned out as a freshman in high school with the goal of getting into a service academy, with the goal of then becoming Secretary of State. Like, how could she best set herself up? And so I think that was really helpful. But the other thing that she did that I think really sets her apart, and I would say to any parent, this is by far the best use of time, in my opinion, that we've shared, is the spreadsheet. And when she was like 14 or 15 or 13 or somewhere in there, we were talking about saving enough money for retirement and not just getting to 65, right? Because people think about retirement and they instantly think 65. In my family, like most people live to their 90s. My grandparents died a few years ago at 97 and 95. And so for me, it was like how to convey to Ella that you need to have enough. First of all, the day you graduate from college, you're on your own. Like her dad and I are not, we're done providing dollars, which is really funny because now she's starting to look at apartments in New York and they're super expensive. In fact, employer, if you're watching, she's going to need more money than you've offered her so that she can pay for her rent. But of course, as her parent, I'm like, oh, I'll help you. I'll chip in a little bit. I want you to live in a safe part of town. I'll chip in. And she was like, that was not the deal. No, you're done. It's like, okay, yeah. But we set up a spreadsheet and we calculated basically, and this is really important if you have like a 13 or 14-year-old who doesn't realize how expensive it is just to breathe every day. We made a list of, okay, so let's just say you want to live in Boston. I said to her, like, okay, pick a city. What city do you think you want to live in? Oh, I think I want to live in Boston. Okay, great. Let's figure out the average 1-bedroom apartment in Boston. Here's all the expenses, your cable, your trash, water, lights, Starbucks, right? Zara, all these things. And she still has the spreadsheet. And then calculate out how much money you're going to need to make in order to pay those bills. And then also save 20% annually. What do your investments need to look like? Like, how can you be the steward of your time, right? Your time is you going to work and then your work compensating you. But how can you be the steward of your time? So how do you take that money and grow it so that when you're 65, you can not only think about changing your lifestyle perhaps and retiring, but how do you make it to 95 when all your family, if your family lives to be mid-90s, how do you make it that long without depending on anyone else? And so, I don't think many people have, I know that they don't have this conversation with their kids. They think that they shouldn't bother their kids with this conversation. This is too serious for their kids. Ella's dad may have been in that camp, like, let's just let her enjoy being a kid. Let's let her have fun. And I'm like, no, the world is serious. I was like, no, she's getting a job when she's 14. I'm sorry. Like, she's getting a job. I'll drive her to wherever it is. I mean, she scooped ice cream and worked a miserable shift and came home filthy dirty because she was always the one that mopped the floors and cleaned the bathroom. But you know what? She put that money into a retirement account, and it's pretty astonishing to go from 14 or 15 to 22 and literally graduate college and have a net worth that's, a good starting point.
Yes.
But aside from what the dollar value of the account is, it's the knowledge that, like, your time and what you do with it and how you capture it, right? Money is a call option on anything that we want to do in the future, right? Money is meant to store our time. When we get paid, it's meant to store our time. Like, that whole exercise has been, to me, it's been maybe one of our greatest chunks, investment of time in her becoming an adult, better than so many other things. And like, I'm the mean parent that she wanted to play piano, and I was like, yeah, I'm not driving you to piano. I'm not, like, I just refused, like, all that sort of, let's get in the car after school and let's drive to all these. I was like, no, we can go to the park and play outside, or we can go home and cook or bake cookies, or you can paint the windows, or like
Learn Mandarin.
But like, I wanted to be with her, right? Like, her dad too, like, we wanted to spend really great time with her. And but in that time, it's your moment to teach your kids how to be successful adults.
Very, very well said, for sure. I'm sure a lot of valuable advice that people are listening to there. Well, we've come to the final question, which is if you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids, or in your case, Ella, potentially your future kids, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
Well, I think from the get-go. I mean, I think a lot of what my parents and, with the choices of you want to take a bath, do you want to take a shower? Like, to quote my mom, it's a vote of confidence. I believe in you. I think you make good decisions. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I would give them the key as soon as I mean, not when they're maybe a toddler in case like they don't really know what that means. But, for instance, every weekend, we would all, make breakfast together, sit around the table, talk. My mom would make each of us like a stack of coffee table books that she thought we'd like. It wasn't, you're just going to rush off. We're not going to be with each other. And we would talk about, real conversations, things going on in the world. And I never sat at a kid's table. It was always like the adults' table. There wasn't a, you're not old enough to talk about this, understand this. And so I think, as soon as the child could, speak and converse, and you'd have the conversation and explain what it is and really make them have ownership over the experience and the knowledge.
Answer. Anything to add there, Lisa? It kind of goes along with your mentality, like Ella said.
Yeah, I mean, when I um when we got divorced, Ella's dad and I obviously had to redo our estate plans, and my attorneys, I remember sitting with them, uh, and they were just like, okay, so, typically we recommend that, you give your kids, X part of their inheritance at this age and X part at that age. And so, what are you thinking and who do you want to be the this and the that and all that? And I was just like, dude, if I'm dead, like, give it to her, right? Like, this has changed since then, but like before this was, pre-Bitcoin really. It was like, I love her, I trust her, I think she makes good decisions. Um, it's just my sort of opinion that if you have a kid that's, I don't know, 22 years old, they're graduating from college. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, God willing, I'm not, but if you were to give wealth to a child and the child loses it by 25, it's really just on them, right? Like, I'm not here anymore. It would just really be an epic failure of on me, not an epic failure on the child. So, I have forever always said to Ella, I love you, I trust you, and I think you make good decisions. And at times that is not the answer that she's looking for. At times she'll be like, I know. Could you please just tell me what you think? I think with Bitcoin, it's a little bit different because, as I've said, I mean, I'm not like outing Ella, but, she saves her money. She's fine. She doesn't need inheritance from me, and that's not the plan. I have now other plans for my inheritance. Actually, I'm sort of with Michael Saylor in the, or whoever has talked about, I'm happy if like my Bitcoin goes nowhere. Right? It just benefits the whole ecosystem. My job with Ella was to help her grow into the person she was meant to be. And anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think to quote the book title, your goal was to raise a sovereign individual, someone who didn't need to be reliant on anyone else and who wasn't waiting for anyone else to come and save them. And I mean, something you told me when I went to China, which is what um, my mom's dad told her, is, I will come and get you if this isn't, I don't remember the exact quote, but if this doesn't work out, if this isn't a good fit, if you're not happy here, I will come and pick you up. And so I think my whole life, I've been very grateful to have that, cushion of if I'm in a bad place, I can call and they will come pick me up and, kind of bring me to safety. But I am determining how my life turns out. There's no one's coming in to, save me from all situations. And so now I'm 22 and I know I can take care of myself and figure it out. And I think that's what you want to leave your children with. because you really can't put a price tag on that.
And very well said. I can't think of a better way to close this one out with that answer and that statement there. So hopefully something for all the audience out there resonates and lets you kind of noodle in the back of your head as you go forward and think about how you're doing similar stuff with your kids down the line. Well, thank you both very much for being courageous enough to come on one of the first episodes of the show. Means the world. We didn't even touch on it, but I'll be sure to link to Ella your TED Talk that you just did in the show notes for those that are interested. We'll put that down there. Any other places you guys want to send to each other, Gen Z or Gen X or anything like that you want to highlight before we close things out?
I mean, if you have a little bit older student, the Bitcoin Students Network, that would be the place on my end. And sadly, the TED Talk is not out yet. It has to get approved and edited, but hopefully soon.
Okay, perfect. We'll throw that in there after the fact. Anything on your end, Lisa?
No, just go look up Ella, go look up the Bitcoin Students Network. Even if you have little kids, like go look up and see what these kids are building.
Actually, for little kids, I mean, I'll send them back to you, Scott. There's also a group called the Bitcoin Junior Club that they have really great workbooks, and so maybe send them there.
Yes, Bitcoin Junior Club does awesome work, and for anybody that's going to be in Vegas, we'll be there in our booth. I'm sure you can find Lisa and Ella, and there will also be a kids camp area that people can send their kids over to. So for those in Vegas, come find myself or Lisa, Ella, and say hi. Well, thanks for everybody, and that's a wrap.
Come find you guys early before I buy all the bracelets.
Exactly.
High
Before Charlotte's
probability.
out of stock. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at SHAmory.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.